Welcome back to my channel. I'm Kimberly, and I use this Dr. Weber Partners practitioner, and I use this channel to share my journey. So you can see today we're talking about mentorship. Can I just say I love YouTube Live? It's probably my favorite social media platform next to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still probably number one in terms of networking, but in terms of like creating content, it's got to be YouTube, and it's probably because of this live format, and it's just the easiest, fastest one. The thing that takes the longest is setting up lighting, which I had the door open for some more natural lighting, but he's gonna bark his head off. So hopefully this will be good enough. And then creating the thumbnail. That's probably it takes the longest to do that. But other than that, I just love it. And I would give him a toy to keep him distracted, but we already know that's going to turn out noisy. So, anyway, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, liking. I haven't had too many comments besides my mom, but this is your chance to change that. And so let's see. I'd like to these are kind of like a continuation, and so I want to, after I watch the old ones, I kind of look and see if there's anything I wanted to add about that. So in the last one, so I just uploaded the rest of the content from the holiday. And I think before I said, oh, I'll finish out Vlogmas, but I thought about it, doesn't make any sense. It's January. So that's that. That's the end of Vlogmas. Whether I'll do it again next. So there's more than, besides Vlogmas, people also vlog every day in April and August, I want to say. And that's the whole month, whereas Vlogmas is just to Christmas. So I don't know. I don't know. You know what? I learned a lot, and obviously now I'm up and I'm running. I'm kind of on a consistent basis. But it just highlighted how tired I was, and it probably wasn't good timing of the year to do that for me, because of everything I have going on and trying to get my life organized and get a system going. So we'll see what I think about that. But anyway, so at the time of this filming, the blog still isn't up. I mentioned that last week. So what we found out is that the plan that I have, I can only have 2 websites active at one time. So we had the blog, and then we had the old template up for the telederm practice. But I didn't like that one because it was too complicated and it was taking too long to get it going. So I told my web designer to pick a template that could be done in a weekend. So he did what I asked. And then when that third one went up, it knocked down the first one, which was the blog. So it's gone. Well, it's not gone, which was my first kind of thought, like, oh my gosh, the whole year is gone. But it's just archived. And so he messaged support. And actually, they were really responsive considering it was kind of a holiday. But they needed me to respond to them to approve, since I own the website, since I own it. They just needed to verify a few things. And so the email they sent me the message on, they said, respond to this email. But every time I did, I kept getting messages saying this email is not manned. So then I would tell my designer, because he's talking to them back and forth, but for some reason when I message them, it doesn't work. So he just I forwarded everything I had been sending them. And so that took the whole week, the back and forth. And so hopefully, he said tomorrow we'll hear from them, since he's been able to supply them the information. So the only thing I can think of as to why I'm getting that is, I know someone told me when I bought my car, they told me that sometimes if the email if it doesn't say Gmail because it has my company name, sometimes there's problems with that in terms of me receiving information. But that's the only thing I can think of as to why. Maybe it's going to their spam folder and it's getting knocked out or something. I don't know. But I learned a few things. First of all, it's a blog, right? It's not life or death. Nobody's life is going to be altered by the fact that the blog is not live. But it's still a problem, particularly because I'm out here creating content and other people and organizations are linked to it, right? So I feel responsible for that. But it did teach me a few things. So one is patience, right? Even with the best plans in place, even with a great team, even with people who are experienced, you're still going to encounter problems. And some of those problems cannot always be fixed right away. To trust your team, right? It doesn't help them if you panic or if you make them feel that everything else going on in their life is not as important as your problem, and to just trust the process. And then also, just like some problems, you're just not going to know they exist until you encounter them. I didn't, I'm pretty sure at some point when I signed on to that website, it mentioned the two websites, but that was more than a year ago. And at the time, I was just focused on the one. So I never would have known that. And even now that I do know that, you would think it would notify you, oh, if the, we're going to archive your other blog or your other website. So those are kind of the takeaways from this lesson. Um, and instead of pouring energy into something I had no control over, I decided to pour it into like, what can I take away from this? And so that's what I'm doing. And so hopefully it's up this week. And also, I just kept getting so many messages um, about people who were clicking on the link and couldn't access it, and they don't follow me on these other platforms, so they don't know. But it just highlighted like how much I just appreciate everybody's support. The blog is really my baby. I think I mentioned last year when I just after I graduated, I explored like what direction do I want to go, what direction I want to take my career, and I thought a question I'd asked myself years ago, decades ago, and then we ask people all the time, what would you do if you could do it for free? And I said I would write, and so that's where the blog came from. And then it just was like, well, what am I going to write about? And then I decided to write about dermatology. And so the blog is really my baby. It is kind of my first, I guess, kind of foray or putting myself out there on the interwebs. And it's been really positive, to be honest. And so just all the people who have supported it by reading it and sharing their feedback, but even like Leahy Dermatology and Dr. Boswell, just for their like confidence and their time that they invested in talking to me so I could share that information with the public. It's been so great, and so I've just decided to put my energy there. And I can't wait to have her back. And I already had a long list of things I want to do on the blog, so that hasn't changed. So yeah, and I'll make a little clip about this tomorrow on Instagram, so I made a little clip on Instagram. I used to go live on Instagram a lot. And actually I really recommend it. So anyway, I made a clip of reel last week of just like Happy New Year, because I took a break from Instagram to focus on Vlogmas and get my channel going. And so I, just came back to let everybody know about the blog on there, and people were so responsive. And I've learned a few things by working with the marketing firm. Is like your face. Like people just want to see your face, and all the other like webinars and things that I listen to about social media and content creation, you just got to put your face out there. And it's like I used to spend so much time like creating things that are pretty and fancy and have music and have all these little features. And at the end of the day, the easiest thing to create is you with your camera. That's it. And that's what people are most drawn to. You think you have to dance and do these little things and all the TikTok stuff. You don't have to do any of that. Like people just want to see you and connect with you. And so it was just my face in the car, and I got such a great response. When you look at your analytics, and the most comments, because one thing I've noticed in the last year is like medical professionals are great about communication, particularly on social media, but it's always private. And so anytime I can see anything in the comments, it's just a sign like, oh, you're growing, to keep at it. Because it can get very daunting, social media, especially. I was listening to a sermon this morning, and she was talking about how important it is to stay in your lane. And they have like children who they've been helping teaching to drive. And I related to that because I took my girlfriend's daughter driving last month, and she did the same thing where we were in the lane and we were stopped. Either we were stopped or we were coming off the highway. I can't remember. And so she went to look that way. And when she looked that way, the car went this way. And so in the sermon this morning, the preacher was saying, you have to stay in your lane. She was saying that her son, he was so busy. She was like, what are you looking at when you drive? And he said, I'm looking at all the other cars. And she said, well, that is good. But you really, most of your attention, she said, that should be a glimpse, what other people are doing. Most of your attention should go to what you're doing in your lane, because people are depending on you to take care of your lane. And if each of us take care of our lane, we'll be able to move forward safely. and effectively. And so social media can get so daunting if you're looking at other people and you're comparing them. Just like I made that, analogy with racing and a marathon. It's like, oh, the people who have, they completed the 26.1 miles, and you're just at 1 mile, and you think, oh, I'm never going to catch up to them. You don't need to catch up to them. You just need to continue your race, because honestly, what you're going to find out is that the people who do make it that far, they're going to be cheering you on the most, because the biggest thing is starting and just putting one foot in front of the other and staying and keeping focused on that. And I can't take the credit for that. When I first started getting into like long distance running, I used to follow Dean Karnazes, the ultra marathon man. And that was his little saying, was just put one foot in front of the other. And I just always keep that in mind, is just keep focusing on that. And so it's so easy to see people with multiple followers or comments in the comment section, especially if, like, say they have 20 posts, they have 1,000 followers. Sometimes maybe that's they're starting over. Maybe their other channel got hacked and they don't even have access to it. So the people that followed them before are just following them again. And most of the time, sometimes they lose people too, and they're starting all over. And so that's one thing to consider. Maybe they are in the community or they're well known in some other space. And so it was super easy for them to just create that page and get a large number of followers quickly. Or maybe they've paid for it. Like, that's the thing I think nobody talks about. And so what you'll hear people do talk about is organic. When you hear people say to grow your audience organically, they're meaning without paying for it. So anyway, I just appreciate everybody's comments this week. That was kind of a highlight, to be honest, in light of what's going on with the blog. So those are my little messages, takeaways for the week in terms of social media. But yeah, so today we're talking about mentorship, finally. And so I'm actually on the floor because I have all these books that I need to go through and decide which ones I'm keeping all these books. This is from NP School. And the China Study. Are you familiar with this one? Obviously, these are all books I recommend. Look at this little one. It's a pharmacology book. So I don't know if I really should keep all of these, but some of these are just sentimental. Look, Bates. Oh, and then, of course, new editions. Oh, so then the other thing that happened, I went to look at my favorite store, and Amazon changed things for associates. You used to be able to like copy paste the link and get a picture. That's how you were able to create this store. So if you're not familiar, you can be an Amazon affiliate, where you can actually create an Amazon store through Amazon, or an associate where you can just get a link. But people have figured out a little hack where you can go on there and copy the, I think it's the HTML code, and it would show you the image, so you can kind of make your own store outside of Amazon. And you couldn't call it Amazon store. You couldn't call it Amazon store or storefront. So I was able to create a store. But when I went there this week, I noticed they took away that option to copy the image and the link. And you can only copy the text. So when I go to my favorite store, there's no images, and I think when I clicked on it, it didn't go anywhere either. So interesting start of the year for my social media presence. So I don't know. I guess once you reach a certain number of followers, then you can apply for associate or affiliate. Let's get those mixed up. So I just got to rethink how I'm going to use those links, because it was so great to just have it and to just refer people instead of constantly putting it somewhere. So got to rethink that. Maybe some people have already started making videos about that change and figure out a workaround. So anyway, let's talk about mentorship. While we're doing that, I'm going to look through these books. So actually, you know what? These two books here, you know how like different cities, they have in like little neighborhoods, they have like those little boxes where you can put books in. It's free. Like, the idea is that you give a book, take a book. And so I will be contributing to that box because I took out 2 books. And did I hit the jackpot? I have had these books on my wish list for a while, since I started learning about financial literacy. These are highly recommended books, which I don't even read. I don't read hard books anymore. Everything is audiobook, but I want to read these books. I just got to figure out when. And so one thing me and my mom just started yesterday, she's building a business also, is we're going to meet every Saturday for an hour at least. And so yesterday was like our organization meeting, how we're going to proceed for the year. Um, and so in doing so, I created I use Notion to kind of keep track of everything. And so I used that. I created a calendar over there to put like everything I need to do per week. And I'm going to be doing that on my other calendar on how I'm going to spend every single day. And so I'll need to add reading time to that. So that's why I'm on the floor, so I can go through these books and put them on the TV stand, see what's left, because I probably need to get a bookshelf, or I think one bookshelf will be enough. So anyway, mentorship, 15 minutes in. So the way I define mentorship is it's just like someone who's a guide, and they're really there to advise you and guide you in your mission. And so I really always like to make a distinction between mentorship and a preceptor, because that is most of the, in my experience, it's not something people volunteer for. And when people volunteer their time, it's not this, it's so yeah, it's not something they volunteer for. And so when people are assigned, it's much different than when they volunteer their time. But also remember, I feel that mentorship is when people are there to guide you in your mission, you as a person. Whereas that preceptor is there to guide you in the organization's mission, which may or may not align. And of course, your time with that organization may be temporary. And so mentors can be both. And I think it's important to have a mentor at the place where you work, because even say if I have, I'm coming up on 11 years as a nurse, and even more than that in healthcare in general, because I started off, my first job was in a nursing home when I was a freshman in high school. So I need to count that up actually, because I think I worked there for 2 or 3 years. And then I did work at the Children's Hospital of Boston. I need to add that all up. So anyway, it's important. So even if I might have 11 years or 10, let's say more than a decade of experience in healthcare, you still need someone at your particular place of work or academia, because you need someone who's navigated that terrain, who can point out, how to build relationships, how to mend them, how to access resources. You need that. You need that specific guidance. But outside of that, and in addition, because you can have more than one mentor, it can be in nursing. This conversation is going to be around nursing because that's my platform, but these principles are applicable across the board. And I don't know if you can hear Puppy, who's always, for some reason, making noise during these videos, but completely silent when the camera's off. I don't understand. He's done that ever since I got him. Anytime I would get on the phone, he would just start making all this noise. I think he was confused because he heard me talking, but he didn't see anyone. And then I wasn't responding to him, so he was getting frustrated, like he is right now. So anyway, you can and you should have a mentor in and outside of nursing. So yeah, it could be career related, it could be related to your academics, it could be related to financial literacy, real estate, investing, whatever your other interests are. Maybe they're completely not related to any of this at all. Maybe you're into interior designing and you design clinical spaces, or you design event spaces. I don't know. So you can have someone in those spaces. And the idea, in addition to supporting you, helping you sift through ideas and brainstorm, and also ask you and kind of really push you to critically think about your decisions and your actions, is maybe this is going to happen once a video where I start off. Anyway, so they can help guide you in the direction. Oh yeah, so help you critically think, brainstorm ideas, support you, but also just give you. So this is where it really comes down. Give you access to things that it would take you decades to build or years to build. So a network, information, trends, resources. Those resources might be financial. They might be getting a job. They might be looking over your resume, helping you with contracts, helping you navigate these new positions, leadership, being a provider for the first time. juggling being a provider as well as family planning, or just supporting your family, raising your family. And that might change over time. Maybe you have young children, then you're combining your young children with your aging parents. And so having someone who can talk to you, speak to you about their personal experience can be tremendously helpful, particularly in terms of saving you time. To me, that's the biggest thing, which is a huge theme you're going to get from me, is the importance of time. So let's look at the clinical relationship with your preceptor. Most of the time, particularly if you're at the bedside, sometimes the person is given an opportunity. Look, we're bringing on a new hire, and we want you to be their preceptor. I don't know people who say no to that unless they're just not available. But most of the time, people agree. But even during that experience, there might be times where the schedules don't align. So you end up being with someone else who didn't even know. And as a traveler, I saw that a lot. And so that person, they just came to work. They had no idea they were going to be training you. And again, the mission is the organization, which is both the organization's mission as well as that patient care at that time. It's really not about you, it's about what we're here to accomplish. Um, that's still a limited time only relationship, right? And there, I have seen where those relationships can blossom into something much bigger, but it is rare. Um, and so I think the next video we're going to talk about like clinical preceptorship in that orientation process, because I've had more than 20 preceptors. Especially if you're a traveler or if you just happen to hop around a lot. It's not unusual. It's not the norm, and it shouldn't be standard practice. But especially now after the pandemic with so many staffing shortages, it's probably becoming more common. So anyway, in terms of mentorship, one thing I noticed when you look at mentorship in nursing is that I'm spending a lot of time, even, and not just me, other people who talk about mentorship, convincing nurses why it's even important, why it even matters. So I know in our programs, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like I feel like he knows. I feel like he knows what he's doing. Oh man. Okay. Um, we're always told that we should have a mentor and it's important. Like everyone takes time to talk about it at every level of academia. But no, that person doesn't tell you how, and they don't offer up their own time, or they don't give you access to a network of mentors. They just say you should do it, and that's kind of it, really, in my experience. And so here we are kind of trying to convince nurses why it's important. And part of that is because, we work in silos. So how I just described that preceptor relationship, and it's temporary. So during the orientation phase, wherever you are, whether you're a nurse practitioner, you're always told that you're going to have support, right? We're going to be here for you. There's going to be people with more experience. You can always ask for help. But at the end of the day, you still need to be able to function on your own independently, because everyone has their own patients. And so you start to develop this mind, and part of orienting is, um, showing that you can be independent. And so there's the idea that, you need to be on your own. And so I feel like we develop this side, like we work in silos. Even when we work in a group of other nurses, we still kind of work independently, and can be hard pressed to have a nurse will try 20 things, but not all the time, these are generalizations, before they ask for help. And even knowing that, right? Knowing that that's our behavior. Once you ask for help, someone will then offer those 20 things, or they will give you a hard time or an attitude as if you hadn't already tried all the things that you know before you came to them. Uh, I feel like we could probably do better in that department. But yeah, so we developed this idea of working in silos, and it continues. Even when you're in a room full of other nurses, it's still the idea that, I'm still going to do this on my own. So let's say you do get to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to ask for help, and I understand that's important, and it's a sign of that you understand. It's a lot of people will say, when you ask a lot of questions, I know you're going to be really safe practitioner. Um, Outside of that, right? So now maybe you're looking for a new job or you're looking for a new role. You might still act very independently. Now, this is in contrast or in comparison to physicians. So let's say you are a high school student, maybe even a college student, and you say, "Oh, I want to be a doctor." As soon as you say that, you're surrounded by mentors. And those mentors might be with you your whole career, even once they retire. I've heard so many physicians talk about their mentor and how they're in retirement and they're still offering advice. And that's very rare in nursing. I've been very intentional about asking nurses if they have a mentor in the last year. And I want to say 10 out of 10, but I'm going to be generous and say 9 out of 10 will say no, they don't have a mentor, right? Now, for the most part, they're open to hearing about why it's important. But the other day, I talked to someone, I, I, I missed her completely because she told me that, her husband was her mentor, and that's all she needed. That's all she needed. So, uh, that's that. And so with physicians, I feel like it's part of the culture, just like this whole idea of working in in silos is part of the culture in nursing. And so with physicians, it's almost a requirement. You have to have a mentor, someone sign off, maybe even on your recommendation letters, right? Has to be another doctor. Um, and you have to you have to participate in research, and you have to participate in organizations. And so you see that across the board that physicians do those things and they understand the value of those things. And you see the return on their investment in spending time doing those things. Whereas in nursing, we spend so much time convincing nurses the importance of mentorship, the importance of being in an organization, the importance of contributing to research and to our body of work in general. One time I was sitting at a table with a nurse. She had been a nurse more than 15 years. The other nurse was working in the ICU, and the other one was a doctoral student. And I was still trying to convince them of their expertise and their ability to contribute to the field and other practitioners. And I said, if you three aren't qualified, who would be? And some of it just takes encouragement and motivation, particularly because we do work in high stress environments. And sometimes you're just exhausted, right? And you don't have the time or energy to think for yourself. And that brings back the mentorship and being part of organizations and being part of a network. Because even like, I talk about social media all the time. I can come on there and network, but networking is not the same as asking a question. Hey, I want to be in derm. How do I get a job? That's not networking. That's asking a question. Networking is actively participating in this community in any way that you can, and in any way that they need you to, that benefits the collective of the group, whether that's personally, professionally, or as an industry. That's networking. Just coming on and asking questions and then not coming back for another 3 months, 6 months, whenever you have a problem, that's troubleshooting, right? And so what I'm so happy about, I don't know what I was looking at, but there's some state, I think, that requires nurses to have a mentor when they apply for licensure. Now that's the kind of change we need in our industry, where you're increasing the value of why you're showing the value of this, the importance of this uh, asset, right? And even one time, I was part of this like mentorship program, and I wanted to be the the mentee, because I'm always the mentor and I love mentorship. But it's like sometimes I want someone to pour into me too. So we were assigned, and it was a beautiful relationship. We had a wonderful rapport. But I found that it got a little reversed, and that I think she got more out of it than I did, which can happen. I mean, certainly. And then yeah, so Yeah, it can be a struggle. And so what I always like to mention before I forget, anytime I talk about mentorship, I always like to make it clear that I'm available for mentorship, whether you want it mentored from me or you want me to help you find someone. I'm always willing to do that. It's not always going to be a good match, right? It's just like dating or finding a therapist. Um, and so yeah, so that's my outlook on the current status of mentorship in nursing, and what do I think we can do about it? Well, it starts with like me, just people or all of us offering our time, right? Offering our expertise, recognizing that we can contribute. The other thing is just knowing how to do it, because there are ways that you can be a benefit to people. So I'm gonna write an article on the blog about it, but I'll just roughly go over some of the ideas that I have in terms of how that relationship can unfold. First, it just needs to start with meeting, getting to know the other person, finding out what each of your experience and background is. If you're the mentee, it's identifying kind of why is this happening? And he's so comfortable. He's so comfortable just doing this with me. And I know as soon as his laptop goes off, he's not gonna pay me. He's gonna take a nap. Um, so yeah, first start with just setting up a meeting. All right, it can be in person is always going to be best. It's always going to be best. But if it's not possible, and because of the beauty of virtual meetings, now you're able to do more often. So but it should be in real time. Um, I love video. Not everyone's a big fan or doesn't have the ability due to schedules. So set that up either in person, video, or phone, but set a time limit. Right? I mean, people are busy. 30 minutes to an hour, no more. And there should be an agenda, right? What are we going to talk about? Because you don't want to waste time. It's to help you be the most effective with your time. So now you get an idea of each other. You get an idea of whether this is going to be a good match. The mentee needs to identify some areas that they might need assistance, but it doesn't have to be a complete list. And maybe you don't know what you want to do. That could be what you need help sifting through. That's totally fine. But just kind of sharing like what your thoughts are, where you've been, your experience, some things you've kind of looked into, and some areas that you want to grow in and learn more about. The mentor should be able to should be able to share how they can contribute to your growth, what that looks like in terms of time, what you can expect from them in terms of feedback, and the format of that feedback. Is it going to be verbal? Is it going to be written? So I told you I have a mentee who she's in a bachelor's program, and so she used to provide updates. That was her choice to provide up because it was kind of like a way for her to track her progress, written. And I mean, coming out of grad school, the last thing I want to do is write anything that's I'm thinking about my last time as a student was in grad school. And you do a lot of writing. So I commended her for taking the time to write something she's not getting graded on, right? But eventually, I think when those slowed down and, just trying to be conscious of her time and to keep our relationship going, I told her we could use Marco Polo. So we do that, and our communication really excelled with that. And so, kind of figuring out where the other person's comfortable in terms of making stuff like that, um, and what you're willing to do. So, as the mentor, I'm telling you what my background is, I'm telling you what you can expect from me. If you send me a message, whether it's email or video, you can expect to hear from me X amount of days, right? Whatever it is, be consistent and be honest. If like, look, you sent me a whole page, several paragraphs, I received your email, I'll respond to it by Sunday. But don't just leave them out in the dark, right? Because it's just a very sensitive time, and you just want to maintain that open communication and trust. um and honesty. You're kind of role modeling through the whole relationship. And then I always like to look. I like to know their schedule if they're a student, any upcoming deadlines, and how I can contribute. Right. So if it's a grad student, are you in a DMP program? Do you need someone to read your paper? Do you need help finding Do you need help recruiting people for your study? Like, what is it you actually need help with? Because maybe I can assist with that. And the only way for that to happen is to have that information in front of me, right? I don't need them to verbally tell me everything. I want to see it because I'm not going to remember anyway. And so I need to have access to that. And then checking in, right? Holding them accountable to some level. A lot of the time you're just listening and you can offer advice and suggestions and then check in. How's that going? How's that been doing? Cheer them on, give them a lot of encouragement and support. You're not there to fix their life, right? You're just there to be honest and to share your opinion and encourage and empower them in whatever way you can. And take advantage of semester breaks when they do have some time off to catch up in person. If you are doing a lot of Marco Polos or email, maybe now you can set up a video chat, right? You want to have that one-on-one connection. We're in the business of people, industry of people. We touch people physically, directly and indirectly through our actions and our practice. So that's no different than our colleagues. I always remind my colleagues, I'm a person first, right? Treat me give me the same compassion and patience and benefit of the doubt that you would your patients. And so just keep that in mind. And then if you have like interests, maybe you invite them to a conference or a race or a dinner or a meeting, right? And invite them to, so maybe you're inviting them to the conference, you're both going to be an attendee, but maybe I'm going to be on a call with someone and we're going to discuss business or programming or something, and they can just hop on just to listen, see how that kind of thing takes place, right? Learn through osmosis, or maybe they chime in. So there's no one way to be a mentor, but it's just about building that relationship and identifying where you align. But like I said, I'm going to do an article. I'm actually going to do a whole little ebook on it. So that's that. But yeah, just wanted to come on and touch about that because, like I said, my mentee and a lot of other students are going back to school right now, and it can just be really stressful sometimes. So like I said, you need the mentor in your place of work, because you need someone who can give very specific, detailed information and advice. But you also need someone who's unbiased, who's outside of that network, who can give you an objective perspective. And so a lot of people are finding themselves in that place at this time of the year. And so I thought that it was important to talk about that before the semester rolls around. And then I'll come back next time and talk about orientation and preceptorship. And then I'll probably come back after that, talk about I'll talk about social media or mental health. Before the month's over, I'll talk about mental health. But yeah, unless I'm supposed to catch up with my mentees soon. So this will be an ongoing conversation, the mentorship one, because I think it's that important. One thing. So yeah, we'll close out on this. One thing I mentioned about mentorship, like I said, you can get it directly, like an agreed upon, like, yeah, I'll be your mentor. But you can also get it indirectly. Some people might watch this video. They might watch my videos for months, years, and indirectly gain some information, some guidance from what I have to share. I've done that, certainly, especially when it comes to clinicians and social media. The people who I consider mentors in this space, I've never met them. They have no idea I exist, right? But you can, let's say, so mentorship can be active too. It doesn't have to be so formal, like, here's a meeting, let's sit down and talk. It can also be like, I feel like my work through the diversity in dermatology and even DMPs of color, to an extent, by working with people who've been in practice in different areas of the industry for decades, I learned from that relationship. It's a working relationship because we're working on a shared upon goal and objective. And through that, you're talking, you're interacting, you're hearing about, hey, their past and current experiences and the people in their network. So you're being mentored through that. You're sharing your experiences and they're giving you feedback. And so that's a wonderful way. And so I think it's really important, something we see in business all the time, is that you need to bring value to that relationship. You can't just be in the receiving position. You need to give something to that. And so one thing that's been super helpful for me is, like, as a clinician, you think your whole focus is always clinical. But really, I'm so grateful to DID because my first job in dermatology was through writing and marketing and social media. And by writing all that content for other clinicians with experience, it really sets the bar quite high. And it made me really do a lot of research and reading and learning about the industry and our practice. And so through that, I was able to learn so much and also and also offer something, right? And so I tell young people now who I meet that if, especially when it comes to social media, everyone understands the value of it, but they might not know the tools or have the time or even the interest, and certainly they don't have the human resources. And that's something you can offer as a young person. So now you're getting access to the information, you're getting access to the network, and you're learning through that. You're being affiliated with these people through this relationship. And so that's what I tell people. That's actually what I consider a pro tip. And it's fun. It's a fun way. If you're a young person, however you define that, and it could, maybe it's not social media, maybe it's something else they could use assistance with, and it's something that's in your wheelhouse. Maybe it's a hobby, something you do to unwind. You can offer that as an asset, and you can add value to that relationship through what you're able to bring, um, and you continue to learn as you go along. So that's my spiel. Hopefully, I just started thinking about the sound on this, especially with my voice going in and out. I think I mentioned last time I caught a cold, so I'm at the end of that. But I noticed the longer I talk, the drier my throat gets. So I'm gonna go. I can't wait till one day when I do these lives and other people are on here with me. What I really, really want to do, and maybe I should start sharing more, um, is I want to reach out to different schools or nursing organizations and just come on live with their say, oh, I'm going to have office hours. So now I'm brainstorming out loud with you guys. I'm going to have office hours, and I might tell my mentee. That's what I was thinking. Now I get access to her network, and I can just, I'm gonna do that. Have office hours. I need to pick a time. She's central. I like Saturdays. I think Saturdays are going to be my day for putting up content. The thing is, what I'm not firm on is a time. If you can see, that video last night came up late at night. So it's like I should probably say Sunday. This way I know I have all day Saturday to upload it. And by the time you come on Sunday, it's there. So, but then if I do these lives and people want to go live, because they're going to be on Saturday, I have to have a time. That's the only thing that's the only caveat. But when I do these office hours, yeah, I'll figure out something. But that's what I'm thinking. And I was thinking about sometimes. So when me and my mom meet for our business meetings, I was thinking about going live there too. So I actually follow this lady, and she does these networking sessions. And basically, she just comes on live. She chats like for 5 minutes, but then we all just work. And then we do the Pomodoro method. I think it's Pomodoro. Sometimes I shoot out these vocabulary words, and I'm just like, is that the right thing? Um, and so you work for like 20 minutes or 25, whatever time. And you come in and take a break every, like, say 20 minutes. So it's another 5 minute break. Then you work another 20 minutes, 5 minute break, another 20 minutes, and then that's your hour. The goal with that one in particular is that you work up to where you're able to work longer stretches of time. Now, honestly, after being in school my whole life, I can work, especially if I didn't have him. I used to be able to sit on the couch. I could work the whole day, nonstop. Especially once you get in the groove, and especially if what I'm doing is writing, like I could. That's my sweet spot. I could just stay there. So those 20 minutes. The only reason I really like, I don't feel so. My goal isn't to work to build up to time, is to take a break. Right. I need to get up. I need to move. I need to run around with him. It's a break to take some water. So it's really an opportunity for me to care for myself. So I love the 20 minutes. Sometimes the 20 minutes can, especially if you get in the groove, it can be a bit of a distraction because you're starting over. But I was thinking about doing some of those networking sessions here when me and my mom meet for our business meeting so that we can kind of document our journey over the next year as we work to opening up our business. Now, it doesn't take a year to open a business, but when I look at everything I have going on and how I want to, the goals I have as a new provider and where I want to pour most of my attention is there. And so when I think about how can I reduce the stress associated with that and that sense of feeling overwhelmed, it's like if and instead of necessarily taking things off my plate, it's just kind of stretching out the goals for some of those things. And so once I decided to stretch out the goal for opening the practice, it relieved so much stress. And then other areas of my life, I'm creating systems and organization and automation. And so that's going to help me tremendously in feeling a sense of calm and getting my time back, which at the moment I feel I'm grieving a little bit. like the time I used to have is no longer available. And so I'm kind of going through that transition because, as I mentioned, time is very important to me. And when I feel like it's not accessible anymore, I feel a certain way about it. So I feel more calm, more relaxed, and more confident with that new plan in place. And so anyway, I was thinking about coming on here. I only meet on Saturdays for an hour. It's not that would have to be different than what I'm doing now. It would be separate, but it would be me sharing the business part of it. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. So maybe I'll give myself all of January to really think about it. And then if I decide to do it, we'll do it in February. And it's really just a networking session. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just all of us sitting on our computer working or whatever you need to do at that time. But it gives you a designated time. And it kind of holds you accountable because you know other people will be there. And I guess it could be kind of fun in a way, but it wouldn't be entertaining as someone watching these videos. It would just be helpful if you're trying to do something similar, whatever it is you're trying to do. Have 1 hour in the week where you're working on towards some kind of a goal. So I'm thinking about doing that. We'll see. So I'm thinking about that, the office hours. But aside from those, I'll continue to come back on here. So next time we come on, which I thank you if you've watched this whole video, thank you. I didn't get anything done in terms of the books because I don't know. That would have distracted me. And I think it might have been loud. But I will sit here and I have like several bags here that need to be emptied and shredded. So I'll finish that up. Next time I come on, we'll talk about orientation. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. Hopefully this week I'll be able to say the blog is back up. I'll mention that on my Instagram page. And then, of course, when I come back next weekend, I'll say that. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Let's see, this week, I don't have too much going on. I think I'm going to the dentist on Friday, which I'm so excited about. I've been trying to have all my annuals. It's just a little bit challenging because my schedule hasn't, I just need my schedule to be consistent so I can schedule these appointments. So I've been able to sneak in dermatology, going to get into the dentist, and kind of just take it one at a time. Of course, I need to go see primary care. And so that's what I have going on this week. And on the podcast, I think this week we're talking about either blood thinners or sleep apnea. We have blood thinners, sleep apnea, and then we're going into a new series on medicine and money. I think in the interview I called it medicine and finance. But since then, I've decided I want to make it medicine and money because we have medicine and faith, or faith. We have faith in medicine. That's a new one we started. And then I want to make this next one money and medicine, something like that. And we have two other ones that I'm just so excited. We're going to be following some people's journeys. And I'm just so thrilled about that because one thing I'm doing is promoting our profession. Because while there are more than 4.5 million of us, and we're the largest segment of healthcare, we're still largely in the shadow, right? People don't quite know what we do. A lot of people think all we do is clean people. And even in nursing, there's a limited understanding of all that's available to us. So I'm not going to get on that soapbox. So anyway, I'm excited about that. Technically, this season, we're in season 2, and the podcast is supposed to end at the end of January. I mean, it does end, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do any specials for Black History Month, which I'm thinking of calling History in the Making. But I think so. I think we'll put out if those two interviews take place, we'll put those out. And there's one more I would love to get, which is more in policy. Yeah, more in the policy realm. And I'm thinking maybe we'll use Black History Month to talk about policy. So we'll see. Just thinking out loud, sharing with you ideas as they come to my head. I mean, I've been thinking about them, but I don't mind sharing the ideation process. So anyway, that's for the 5th time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Please be kind to yourself, and yeah, I'll see you next time.